Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to the Next Level, Conversations that Propel Business. I'm your host, Stephen Nooner.
You didn't seem real sure about that today. I'm Bob Gibbons.
Well, I was distracted by you pointing your fingers at me.
I'm always trying to tell you what to do. I just am waiting for the day when you actually do it.
Keep waiting.
Okay. All right, so this week we are here with our guest, Trey Rome. Trey is the founder and CEO of Home Tax Solutions. They're a company that's been in business for about 4 years, so fairly new still, but they're growing rapidly, got good revenues, 12 employees. They've got an office in Dallas on the top floor of a big office building. That's exciting.
Yes, sir.
And they do property tax loans, which I didn't even know existed before we started talking.
Neither did I.
So good. We all have something to learn today. If you want to learn more about Trey's company, please go to hometaxsolutions.com. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, we like to start off every show with the wisdom of others. And today we are going to use a quote provided by you. And it's very simple and eloquent, pithy. Happiness is a choice.
It is.
What does that mean to you?
Well, I found it to be, it's hard to be angry. It's hard to have a bad day. If you're happy, it's pretty simple. And, a lot of people I've found have, they think that they're victims of their situation. And it's just sort of, they get this negative momentum in their life. And if you just take it from a glass half full perspective and say, well, golly, this is, it's actually really neat. I'm having, compared to, other people's and tough situations, I'm having a pretty good day. And when you start sort of looking at life through that lens, in my opinion anyways, it makes every day a lot better. So you can choose to be unhappy, you can choose to be happy, and you can choose how you react to situations. And sometimes bad things happen. I mean, it's life, but you can choose how you react.
So are you naturally an optimist?
I am.
Yeah, you probably are.
Yeah.
I hate people like you. No, I'm teasing. No, I am too. But, the people that are not, the people that are the naturally pessimistic, I don't think this makes any sense to them.
Well,
how do you talk yourself into being happy?
It's just a way of thinking, I guess. It comes more naturally to some people, I guess. But when you walk into a room and you're with someone that's negative, it almost is like they suck the energy out of the room. I call them energy suckers.
Yeah.
And it's just not a fun way to live.
Yeah.
And it really is just a frame of mind. It's not that difficult. It's just you got to choose how you react to situations.
It's interesting that you chose this because we have in our company, we've always had what are called our 10 best habits. And we're trying to distill that down into 4 or 5, principles, core principles, values of our company, because 10's too many for people to remember. Right. So we're trying to distill them down. And one of the ones I'm considering right now is literally like the pursuit of happiness, because you can't, in my opinion, it's very difficult to make it in today's world. I mean, we've had Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, we've had government regulation, we've had insurance companies go out of the market. I mean, we've had so much. And if we didn't choose to have that attitude and be grateful for the opportunity, like I would have been done.
Yeah.
I would have been done.
Well, I mean, there's a million things you can find to be upset about. I mean, the election we just went through being one of them, but there's a million things you can find to be happy about. I think it's just, what do you choose to focus on? I think is the most important thing. So let's get happy with talking about business.
Let's learn about something completely new.
Yeah. So
To us.
Home Tax Solutions, you guys do property tax loans, which is sort of explains itself, sort of. But before we get into the details of that, which I know there's a lot more to it, tell us how you got into it in the first place.
So I was driving to work one day, and I was listening to a radio show, and there was an advertisement in the break, and I was listening to the ticket, actually. And it was an advertisement for property tax loans. And you know, I was thinking, well, who in the heck would lend money to someone who can't pay their property taxes? That sounds crazy, risky, and what's going on there? So I looked into it, did a lot of research on the model and how it all worked, and realized it was a win-win for the company and the people that they were helping. So went out on my own and raised some money. And while I was at the bank, I was sort of moonlighting at the same time starting my business off. And
because they don't do that kind of loan.
No, banks don't do that type of loan. So, you know, raised the money to do that, started doing some marketing. My phone would start ringing in the middle of a meeting, so I'd have to run out real quick and take the phone calls. And I think people thought I probably had some digestive issues because I was constantly running in and out. And it got to the point where I couldn't do both, so I stopped working at the bank.
Did the bank know that you were? They didn't know you were doing the startup. Okay.
They didn't know. And started on my kitchen counter 4 years ago, and it's been a whirlwind ever since. So it's been a lot of fun.
So who's your typical client? I mean, I guess I'm grateful that maybe I was not aware. I mean, because it's someone that's ran into challenges with their not being able to pay their property tax.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more common than you think. In Texas, it's a $3 billion market of people that just can't afford to pay that property tax bill at the end of the year. And it spans the gamut on the type of profile person it is. You got the people that are, on the poorer side. Mm-hmm. And then you have the people that are keeping up with the Jones in the nice neighborhoods. It's the person that doesn't escrow their taxes. They may have had some sort of big bill that popped up that year, whether it's a medical bill, or, their kid decides to go to an expensive college over the state college, whatever it is. It's an unexpected, hit to your savings account. And if you don't pay your property taxes, it's really expensive.
A bigger hit.
Oh, gosh.
Well, but now before we answer that question, Stephen, if you don't have to escrow your taxes and insurance for your mortgage company, does that mean you don't have a mortgage?
It does not. It's becoming more common for first-time home buyers and banks in general to escrow people's taxes, but a lot of times, a lot of banks don't require an escrow. They're not set up for it, or they just I've had several mortgages, and almost all of them wanted to do it, and
right. I refused to on a couple of cases, and then
right.
they wanted to charge me more on
right.
my interest rate.
Right.
But most of the time they were trying to make me do it.
And they are, but you'd be surprised. There's a lot of free and clear properties out there. What we run into a lot are people that inherit, maybe their mom's house. So it's been paid off for 20 years, and they get into this property they can't afford, and they get this tax bill, and they're like, "Whoa, I didn't realize it cost us much to live
my
here."
house was free.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's one of those things that pops up at the end of the year, and if you can't pay it by the end of January, in 6 months your bill is up 1.5 times. It's a 50% penalty.
Like straight off, like that's the rule.
It's 7% in February, and then 2% every thereafter, and then on July 1, it's an additional 20% on top of all that.
Wow.
So you're effectively at a 49% hit. And then your account gets handed off to collection attorneys, and then they start sending you nasty grams and start calling you. And at the end of the day, I mean, you're risking your property to foreclosure to the city. So where we come in is we say, look, it doesn't make any sense to incur all those fees and penalties. Let us pay the taxing authority for you, and then set you up on an affordable monthly, repayment plan with us. When you get the money, pay us back. There's no prepayment penalty, and you only charge for the interest on the amount of the time the loan's outstanding, and it ends up saving you a lot of time, hassle, and money.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, I used to be a property manager for high-rise office buildings, and I got a check from our accounting department to pay the taxes on this building here in Dallas on Central Expressway.
And you went shopping?
It was not made payable to Bob Gibbons, unfortunately. But I put it on my desk, and I went on vacation. I came back, and it got buried.
Yeah.
And when I finally discovered it, it was 3 days. It was like February the 3rd or something. 3 days into it.
Oh, Lord.
And instead of just mailing the check, which I wished I had done, we went ahead, I called my boss, told him what happened, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, the penalty was over $30,000.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
And we ended up paying it like within a couple of days after that. But even for just that few number of days, 30. Now that was a big office building, so that's a lot bigger than a house. But still, I mean, those things can rack up in a hurry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Scary.
So what's the alternative? I mean, so you don't have the money. I know you said that, I mean, it's definitely your solution is better than incurring all the penalties from an affordability, feasibility, all that. I mean, but why not? Do they not have like a credit card to throw it on, or do they not have, I mean? Sure.
There's other options out there. You can put on a credit card, certainly. Interest rates on credit cards are pretty darn high.
Sure.
Upwards of 20% plus. Our average rate's about 10%.
Okay.
And so, it's a competitive landscape out there. So, the interest rates are very competitive.
Sure.
You could borrow from your 401k, incur the penalty there. We've seen people do that. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Could you get a home equity loan?
You could try to get a home equity loan. The problem with the home equity loan is, you got to get an appraisal. It takes a long time to go through all the process.
Racking up more fees the whole time.
Exactly.
So with us, obviously I'm biased, but you call in, and in literally 48 hours, we will have the taxing authority paid off for you. It's that simple. It takes about 5 minutes over the phone to.
But now, what kind of underwriting are you doing on that? I mean, if somebody has a 90% loan to value ratio and they're delinquent on their taxes, I mean, that's a whole different animal than if I've got 50-50.
You're right. But the majority of people out there would fit the underwriting. The underwriting is usually never an issue. The taxes are, they're 3% of the value of the property, and they're usually in front of any type of mortgage lien or anything like that. So your loan to value is usually never going to be anything that we'd have to worry about. We like to stay under the 25% range.
Okay.
So for the listeners out there, what that means is if there's $25,000 in taxes owed and the property's worth $100,000, that would be a 25% loan to value.
Gotcha.
And so underwriting is usually never an issue as long as they're the titled property owner. We can get it done in less than 48 hours.
So one of the things I know is important to you is you talk about your having advisors and that they want to do the right thing.
Sure.
So what does the right thing look like? You're obviously talking to people that are in a pinch. Like what type of conversations or what kind of advice are they giving? Yeah.
So usually the property tax loan is the right way to go. When you're looking at the other solutions that are out there. And so, when we tell them is like, look, if you're planning on getting your commission check in this month before you get to the next month, then, if that's enough money to get the taxes paid off, then do that. We're not the right fit for you. If you think you're going to get it paid off in maybe a month or 2 months, we still may not be a good fit for you. But if it's going to be, a little bit longer than that, we can put you on a small payment plan where instead of a year amortization like the county will offer a 1 year repayment plan usually with higher interest rates than us. We can spread it out over 10 years, and if you can afford the $50 or $100 a month, whatever it is, and then pay us off whenever you get your check, then that's probably the best way to go.
So when you'll actually advise them, hey, we may not be the fit or we may need to adjust.
Yeah,
that's cool. Well, we're going to go to a break. When bootstrapping a company, is it better to invest in high-level employees early on or grind it out with lower skill until you can't make it any further? Stick around and we'll get Trey's wisdom.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand. And landlords count on this being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate 1, maybe 2 leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them, so let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at texastenantrep.com. Again, that's texastenantrep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
Hi, this is Rick Sapio from businessfinishingschool.com. I had a great time with Bob and Steven, who, it's clear to me, took the short bus to school.
Welcome back to The Next Level. We're here with our special guest, Trey Rome. If you want to learn more about Trey's company, Home Tax Solutions, please visit hometaxsolutions.com.
Hey, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was what is it you're most excited about in your business right now?
I would have to say it's just our growth. Over the last 4 years, we've come into a fairly mature industry. The law to allow people to help pay people's property taxes as a third party has been around since the 30s, since the Great Depression.
Wow.
It's on a scale basis, it's really kind of been the early 2000s, and there's been eight companies out there that are really doing on a big scale that we're competing with on a day-to-day basis, and we've come to be the fastest growing in the industry.
Congrats.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I think our differentiator, I would say, would be the companies that right now do more volume than us are hedge fund owned companies. There's a company that's owned by a foreign bank. When we're out there advertising,
that's encouraging.
Yeah,
foreign bank collecting interest on U.S. tax loans.
That's ironic, isn't it? And so I think that when we're advertising, the clients understand that and they see that in our message. Third generation Texan, family owned business. When you want to get in touch with your loan officer, we're an email or phone call away. You got direct access to me, the owner, and I'm very involved. And so it's the challenge is when you keep growing, you want to keep that culture alive and well, because I think that really is one of our biggest differentiators out there.
So when we were talking earlier, you used the word disrupting your industry. Is that what you meant, what you just described, or is there more to it than that?
Yeah, well, there's more to that. We sort of had the benefit of coming in 4 years ago, and we had better technology at our disposal than a lot of our competitors out there at the time. So for us to do 1,000+ loans, we can do that with 10 people, whereas before, it may take 100 people. So, we pass those efficiencies on to our clients, and so that allows us to, have the lowest cost, lowest interest rates, lowest closing costs, all that stuff, because we don't have near as much overhead.
All the things that people want.
Right? Exactly, yeah. Good customer service and low cost. It's pretty simple.
Sounds like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm just curious about, and I think you've got a great story to share, I'm fascinated by how many successful entrepreneurs have these moments of truth, these kind of all-in type of moments. And I know that you had a big one that you had shared before the show. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. When I first got started, I had my hands in everything, and a big facet of our business is our marketing. It sounds barbaric and old-fashioned, but it's mainly direct mail.
So like Advo, like those packs of things I get in the mail.
Yeah,
okay.
Just envelopes with our message, and we order the list of people that are delinquent on their taxes, and we reach out to help them via direct mail.
Okay.
And And as you can imagine, it's when you're sending out a lot of mail, it can get expensive. And when I first started out, I was doing everything from designing the letters to getting in my pickup truck and hauling over to the mail house and unloading the paper and doing everything. And I realized real quickly that I sort of needed help in that area. So I I got in touch with a vendor that we still use today that is sort of a one-stop shop deal for our direct mail marketing. And he convinced me, he's like, look, if you really want to do this right, it's going to be a pretty sizable investment. And at that time, I couldn't afford to write that check. But I knew it was either I do it or I don't. And that was sort of my moment. And so it was scary. I had to, it was an upfront big investment to print all the materials out.
It was something like 10x what you had spent
10
before,
times
right?
what I would have spent. And that's big, it's like, if we send it out,
Especially
the phones,
when you're starving.
Yeah, exactly. And if I had done that and the phones didn't ring, that would put me out of business. So
How long did it take for it to ring?
It took like forever.
At that time.
Yeah. But thank goodness it worked out. And
So you're doing your own standalone marketing piece. You're not doing it like with a money mailer or something where you have a whole bunch of other ads going at once.
It's our own standalone package. And we have our list of people, and every month we update the list, and we update our message to the person to kind of reach out to them and say, it doesn't make sense to stay delinquent. If you don't do something with us, do something.
Right.
So you're hitting them after they're delinquent. You're not marketing to them in advance because, that's sort of a total crapshoot. How do you know who's going to be or not?
Exactly. That would be the golden ticket. It's really an educational thing to let people know, hey, look, guys, if you're not delinquent on your taxes and you're still borrowing from your 401k or putting on a credit card in January, we still may be a good option for you. And so how do you educate that big of an audience? Every property owner in Texas.
Impossible.
It's almost impossible.
Maybe you should go on a radio show.
Maybe so.
Well, until you're like in that situation, it's just noise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I guess that in the big data future, you'll be able to tell through people's Facebook feeds that they're in the hospital and their kid went to out-of-state college.
Yeah.
And maybe
so.
Start early.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hear the legislature every now and then starts beating the bandwagon of consumer credit type stuff, and I don't care if it's the pawn shops or if it's the you name it, loans, payday loans, people, whatever.
Sure.
Do you get lumped into that whole category?
So we're regulated by the OCCC.
What does that mean?
The Office of Consumer Credit Commission.
Okay.
It's a state agency. And so, we're fully regulated. We have audits. We've got all sorts of rules that have been legislated in that, we've got to abide by. And so, naturally, for any bank or lending institution, more regulation makes it harder to do business. More small business, regulation makes it harder for small businesses. So every 2 years when the state legislature meets, we got to stay on top of issues and be, proactive instead of reactive. But, in terms of when you say credit, the reality is we're not extending any new credit to anybody. These are taxes that are owed.
Right.
And you have to pay them. So we're literally stepping in the shoes of the tax assessor and satisfying those property taxes. We're not issuing any additional credit. That's sort of been the argument all along is, look, guys, we're not.
They're not going out and drinking and gambling this money. Or
Exactly. So,
well, before we went to the break, I kind of alluded to, when you're bootstrapping.
Yeah.
I know you've grown a lot, and I know that one of the things you shared is kind of the challenge of knowing when to make another all-in choice and going for the higher dollar. So tell us about that. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, that's something we struggled with for a long time, and well, like I said earlier, whenever I had my hands in every facet of the business, I sort of took the approach of bootstrapping it, and in this business, the money we make is the money that the margin between what we pay the bank and then what we lend out. So. It's a thin margin deal, and it takes a lot of loans to be able to become profitable. So in that light, it didn't make sense, even though we had a lot of transactions happening, it didn't make a whole lot of sense from a P&L standpoint to hire the people that we actually needed to hire to get the job done. And so we just worked really long hours and did more with less. And where that caught up with us, in my opinion, was, it's a very accounting intensive business.
Sure.
There's thousands of checks going out, thousands of checks coming in for payments. And if you don't have the right staff in place, whenever you're every quarter talking to the accountants, it gets tough to, follow all the numbers around. So I spent a lot of time and spun my wheels with the accountants, where I could have been focusing on the business, and so we finally hired a CFO, a senior accountant, a collections team. So it's all
a full-time CFO.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So your company of 12 people, the full-time CFO.
You have to have it.
That's amazing.
Because our fuel is our capital.
Yeah.
And so we have to be on top of that. That was a struggle for us for a long time, but now we finally got it all.
Hindsight 2020. Do you think that if you had made the choice earlier, do you think you'd be further along right now?
Probably so. I mean, if I had spent more of my time, focusing on growing the business versus trying to make sense of all the stuff going on in the background, I think it would have helped. But it's tough at the time when
it's so tough.
Yeah, it's a tough decision.
It's a bound side. So do you think you'll carry that forward into your next? I mean, because there's another one right around the corner, right?
Yeah, and we have. I mean, we have a great team now of very experienced people that are probably overqualified, but I think we've hired up for the next growth, the next busy season, and so we're ready for it this time. We're not going to try to catch up. We've kind of got on the front end.
So have you done some things to sort of train yourself, or like hired coaches or consultants or certain books or systems?
Yeah, one of my things that is really one of the books that really helped me recently is called 3 Simple Steps by Trevor Blake, and I encourage everyone to read it. I'll go over the steps now, but there's a lot more to it. It's take quiet time every morning for 20 minutes. It is have a mentality control, so don't let the negative noise around you affect you. And the power of visualization of success. And those 3 things, it sounds simple, but it's hard to do and practice every day. Mm-hmm. But I've made a commitment to do that, and it really has allowed me to sort of, take back control. Instead of me sprinting on the treadmill, I feel like I'm more at a tempered jog, and so it's been really helpful for me.
So you feel more conscious then because of the work?
I do. I think I've had a lot of great things happen. As a result, I feel like I'm ready for my day. I feel like I can think and make better decisions having that quiet time in the morning. It's been a huge help. So yeah, 3 Simple Steps by Trevor Blake.
Well, thanks so much for that info and that insight. Really happy you were here on the show with us today. For our listeners, if y'all would like to learn more, please go to hometaxsolutions.com. And if you want to learn more about the show, where do they go, Stephen?
Nextlevelshow.com.
Cool.
If you know someone that needs to hear something from today, please spread the word.
See you next week with
Thank
another
you, guys.
guest.
Have a great week.
Thanks.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.